the granulation with all this on board, and it's going to be now stage from drip. I can convert that testosterone molecule into estradiol. And then with the overabundance of estradiol, it further suppresses FSH. So it's not just like one, then the other. There is this gray zone, okay, right there in the middle. And what's even more amazing is that once we get that peak of estradiol, an LH surge, ovulation, those granulosa cells and those theca cells are going to be what becomes the luteal cells. So these luteal cells are not just some new cell type that showed up from the next dimension right after ovulation. Those granulosa cells and those theca cells that were making all that follicular fluid, that they were making, nursing that oocyte, and they were producing all those hormones, the estradiol and the inhibin. At that point of maximum showering of LH, they get extremely stimulated, excited, and they convert into theca cells. And then they will then switch over to producing progesterone. Does that make sense? I probably didn't do a good enough job explaining that yesterday. All right. Couple of questions. Somebody asked me, why do females, when they get in a group, start to cycle together? It's called the dormitory effect, right? So anybody have a theory? So it is a survival tactic, and so that if in fact we do come across a male, we could all get settled at the same time, and we could propagate our line. If in fact we came across sperm donor, we'd all be ready to receive. So it does happen in all the cattle, in all the groups of animals that we put together. The whole herd is not going to sync up. You'll tend to find small groups that will sync up, but it is quite common, and they call it the dormitory effect, because you put all these girls that have come from all over the country or the world, you stick them in one hallway in an apartment complex on campus, and within 60 days, that they are running like a pack. And there's probably 1 week out of every month that nobody wants to go visit that hallway. It will be my life for the next 20 years. So yeah, there'll be quite the dormitory effect at my house. And I'm kind of looking forward to it. Looking forward to one aspect of it, so my wife can see what it is like. She can't see it. You ladies, you can't see it. You can't see it, okay? It's okay. We love you in spite of it, all right? There's estradiol, and it's positive over here, and it's negative over there, and all that kind of stuff. All right, any other questions from yesterday? So that is because the LH receptors have finally matured on those theca cells, okay? And they're using LH to now take cholesterol and make testosterone. And those granulosa cells can now take the testosterone, and with some FSH still present, it can aromatize that to estradiol. Does that make sense? So yeah, that's a very key little part. It's not going to win you any prizes anywhere, but it is important. Any other questions? Those are all good and fair questions. All right, so I left you all with a question yesterday. I asked you that if we had a mare and we had a cow that I needed to really, really breed, and I was going to short cycle them with an exogenous dose. I'm going to pull up in a syringe a dose of PGF2 alpha, and I'm going to give each of those beasts a dose of prostaglandin, PGF2 alpha. What's going to happen and why? So what's the goal? What am I trying to do? I'm trying to lyse the CL, and if I lyse that CL, what physiologically happens? Stop producing progesterone, so if I have a falling progesterone level, that means I of progesterone. So now I can have a new player. Okay. So if I do that, we're ultimately going to hasten the onset of estrus and thus ovulation. Makes sense? Let's just pretend she was in day 11 of her cycle. Okay? That means it would take 10 more days before she would naturally cycle on her own. But if I give her a dose of luteinized this morning, okay, when could she actually ovulate for us? Her 6 days, 3 to 4. Anybody else want to take a stab at it? Those are all suitable answers. 3 to 5 days. Okay, 3 to 5 days. Why 3 to 5 days? You're right, but I don't know that you entirely know why you're right, but you are right. What? A new shirt? What has to ultimately happen for her to ovulate? She has to grow another follicle. So she has to have a new follicular wave. Or if she's already in the middle of one, and I remove progesterone, that biphasic number 1 that got shut down because of P4, if she's just starting to make a dominant follicle rise up, and I lyse that CL, guess what? That bad boy can take off, and she might ovulate as soon as 48 hours. If she's got that dominant follicle there just waiting to take off, and we remove that P, she can ovulate in 2 days. Okay? And so it's all about timing. Everything is about timing. So ultimately, dose of prostaglandin, remove the CL, remove inhibition of progesterone, and we're going to allow her to pick up wherever she may be with a follicular wave and finish on through to ovulation much sooner than she would if we left her to her own pace. Now let's pretend she was on day 16, 17, somewhere in there in her cycle. How soon is she going to ovulate from now? Could be. She could be pregnant. But if she was, wouldn't matter. If we get rid of the progesterone source, she won't be very long. Would it be, again, it depends on where she's at in that follicular wave, right? Depends on where she's at. But if we're talking about that biphasic cow, it probably really didn't make that much of a difference to her. Because she, remember, day 15, she just got prostaglandin endogenously. So if I gave her a dose on day 16, did I really affect that cow? No, even though she still has a CL, but now it's that CL2, right? It's already been kind of a sucker punch like I got Chad earlier in the week, and he's kind of pouting about it and thinking about taking her ball and going home. And so I probably really didn't do a whole lot physiologically to her other than ensure that I liked that CL. Okay, now follow me on that. All right, so now I did all that. If I gave her that dose of prostaglandin, that's ultimately what I'm trying to do so that we can hurry up and bring her and not wait possibly for another week and a half. Now, 2 animals. I got 1,100 pound cow, I got 1,100 pound mare. I look on the bottle, I figure out what the physiologic dose is, and I give them both a dose. If I come back in 30 minutes and look at my cow, what does she look like? Normal, abnormal, complaining, moaning, groaning, pitching a fit. Looks normal. Just looks about like I did 30 minutes ago before I gave her the injection. What about our mare that we gave an injection to? Somebody says you get a little antsy. No, probably not signs of estrus. But I do agree with antsy. She could be kind of antsy. So you're saying not normal, or you're going to vote not normal? She's not normal, all right? But what all do you think Why is she antsy?
She's gonna be sweating a lot.
Why is she sweating a lot? She's gonna sweat a lot. She's gonna think her world is coming to an end. They're not very tough. Why does she act like that? She may even throw herself on the ground, beat her head on the floor, flop around like a fish out of water. Breathing hard, kicking at her belly. Because it goes through systemic circulation, but I mean, so did the cow. I gave her a dose. And so why is that? Again, you are right. You don't actually know why you are right, but you in fact are right. So here it is. You guys are right. It has to do with that circulation, the natural circulation of prostaglandins. Remember with the cow and with the sow, we talked about that counter-current exchange system. It normally does not go through systemic circulation. Okay? So, if we can have to lyse a CL in a cow to get enough functional prostaglandins all the way down to the ovarian artery through systemic circulation and back to the ovarian artery, I've got to give a really big dose because she is going to metabolize most of that drug. How can I metabolize drugs? Liver? Kidneys, renal excretion, GI if it was oral. There's one more. And guess what? It's the important one. Respiratory. Respiratory metabolism. Okay? So if I give this cow, I have to give her this big, huge dose, 5 mL, 5 micrograms per milliliter. So 25 micrograms of prostaglandin, utilize, stick her right in the muscle, and she takes off and she does fine. If I came over here and gave this mare 5 cc of utilize, I promise you she might die because she would probably commit suicide. That terrible for her. But why? Because you said she is set up for systemic circulation. So why me giving her a dose of systemic prostaglandins? Why does that bother her so bad? That's the way she's wired. I'm not jacking her up. She's jacked up.
Are your synthetics, are they kind of more of a mixed prostaglandin than specific PGF2 alpha?
So that's a good thought, and they maybe, again, you're sort of right. And we're going to talk about the actual drugs here in a minute. This is where we're going, setting this up. There are some synthetics and there are some natural analogs. Lutolice, the product I'm talking about, is a natural. I mean, it's just, it is it, okay? So, if she's set up to handle that, that's what she does to herself every time, why is she pitching such a fit when I do it? So she's not having, I get that, maybe it's a, allergic or a sensitivity to it. Nope. What was that? So it really has to be, it has to do with the dose effect. Because she is set up for systemic circulation, she doesn't need a physiologic dose that the cow would need. So if I take that 5 mL that I gave that cow, let me say it this way. If you're going to use Lutolice, that branded product, which is a natural analog, takes 5 mL to do it in the cow, probably only 2. Some people use 2.5, 3 if you're mean, all right, or if it's a really big mare. But it just doesn't take that much because she is so sensitive to systemic administration. So with the cow, I need a huge dose so that I can get enough all the way back to the ovary. With the mare, I don't need much because she's ready to grab a hold of that stuff and take it through systemic circulation and get it back to that ovary. Now, all the while I'm trying to get a physiologic dose back to that ovary, are there any other tissues that might be sensitive to PGF2 alpha? GI,
Your vessels.
Vessels? What else? No, not the kidneys themselves, but maybe the bladder. I might argue the bladder might be a little bit sensitive. So GI, blood vessels, bladder, brain is not brain. It's just not. Yes. The reason she's throwing herself on the ground almost died is because she has colic, some kind of fierce. Why? Contraction of smooth muscle. Remember that it is an prostaglandin is anti-progesterone. The other main effect is what? What's that little word? Starts with an E. Ecbolic. Ecbolic is the term for causing smooth muscle contraction. So, in the GI tract, in the bladder, in blood vessels, and there's one more big one. Uterus, absolutely. Uterus, lots of smooth muscle there. 2 layers of it, actually. And one more. What about your respiratory tract? Major airways, bronchioles, you have smooth muscles that are controlling the diameter of those. If there's more, probably those sweat glands as well. When you go out there in 20, 30 minutes and she's flopping on the ground and she's in a full body sweat like she just finished an endurance race and her nostrils are flared, I've even seen their third eyelids flip out. Their blood pressure gets so high. I thought she had tetanus. She had acute tetanus right in my barn. It's like, dear Lord. And she just could not breathe. So what kind of metabolism does prostaglandin have? You said GI, you said renal, you said liver, and we said respiratory. Respiratory. It is expired. So when I had a mare, COPD or RAO or PEDS or whatever the cool kids are calling it, and I gave her a very functional dose of prostaglandin. I almost killed her. I really, really did. Her blood pressure was so high that her third eyelids had everted, and she was, she was calling for the backhoe. And she was seeing the light, man. She was seeing the light, boys. And gave her some clenbuterol and orally and albuterol inhalant, and she chilled out a little bit there in a few minutes. But she was she had the heaves, and it almost killed her. I'll never forget that. So I say all that stuff because if you don't understand that, I don't know why I almost killed that man. And I don't. And I'd be scared to use those drugs ever again. When in fact you probably just use a lower dose and you'll probably be okay. But we have to understand the metabolism of these drugs and their not only their primary function, but also their side effects.
So when you gave that drug, you follow the dosage of the?
Yeah, I gave the right amount. Yeah, I gave the right amount too. She was a really big mare. I probably gave her about 2.5 to 3 cc's. My thinking always was I didn't mind them colicking a little bit. If they got uncomfortable for about 5 or 10 minutes and they got sweaty and they breathed hard just a little bit, I felt pretty good about me getting that CL. I mean, if I gave enough that she had some side effects, I probably accomplished what I was doing. Now, I didn't do that when people went home and gave it, but if she was going to stay with me and I was going to short cycle her and start ultrasound her in a couple of days and try to breed her within a week, I'd probably give her 2.5, 3 cc's and tell her to stick her in the round pen, somebody go under, for 15, 20 minutes. And, when she looks like she's good and sweaty, cool her down and stick her in a stall. Sometimes I do it. If I did do it and no one's going to take them home, I would just do it like as soon as they're getting on the trailer so they wouldn't see it. They're just driving home. She's going to be pretty sweaty when you get home. If you hear, pitching a fit back there, so just keep driving. Don't get out of the way. Get home. She's just ready to get home. Because they pick on Carson, because I know Carson. Carson, says, hey Doc, will you look at this mare, we really wanna breed her, and we ultrasound her real quick, got a big old CL over there, and, I said, alright, Carson said, just, grab some blue ice, over at, Wally's clinic, and give her a big old dose of it, whenever you can this afternoon, and, bring her back by here in 2 days, and let's start scanning her. So she goes and she tells Wally, says, yeah, I got some prostaglandin over there. She goes pulling up a little bit, and you know, sometimes when you're pulling back and you might pull the needle out a little bit too much, and like get a little spritz, sometimes that happens, and you know, it gets all over her hand, and she can't see very good. She had it actually right up here, so actually probably got some in her mouth, or maybe in her eyes a little bit. And you know, so she decided to go out there and give this Marin injection, and about the time she tries to give this Marin injection, she starts having a few little abdominal cramps, and then her breathing picks up, and the mare's, you know, being ridiculous, so she got to chase her in a circle because she doesn't like needles, and all that kind of stuff. Well, what if, in fact, you know, Carson was happily wed and didn't even know it, but she was actually pregnant? And what if Carson had asthma?
She does.
So it's not so far-fetched. So this is not very far-fetched. You see how real my stories can become. So, and I didn't put on the drug label, warnings, cautions, or side effects. And she loses a child and has to be hospitalized for the worst asthma attack she's ever had. And no one at the hospital can figure out why she's reacting this way. I'm just telling you this because these drugs, these hormones are extremely powerful. They will affect any mammal in the very same ways, okay? So you need to send these home, if you're sending these drugs home, very explicit directions. Wear gloves, protective eyewear. If I have females, and usually it's the ladies that own these horses, if I know the situation and I know the barn manager or whatever, I just put them in a Ziploc bag. I say, give this, you know, to Mike. Tell him to give these injections. You just leave them alone. Okay? But that's not always the case. So you need to warn them and go through all that stuff. And if you're sending bottles of drugs home, you know, I make sure the insert is there and I unfold it so they can see it and, you know, all the warnings and stuff. Be very, very careful. These are very powerful drugs. Okay? So you understand with in those two scenarios why the cow reacts one way and the mare reacts another. All right, has to do with their own metabolism and systemic circulation or counter-current exchange mechanism.
Aren't you supposed to check if they're pregnant?
Oh, absolutely, but I'm not supposed to check Carson. Right? Yeah. No, I thought we scanned her. We palpated her. We ultrasounded the mare. She's not pregnant. She just ovulated. She had a nice big CL. And I want to remove it. But I didn't know that Carson had a nice CL and was already with a child. And that's a bad deal. Okay? That's a very bad deal. What if you gave a bitch some Ludolites? Female dog. Not Carson. Not talking about Carson. If you gave one of your clients breeding female dogs those Ludolites, doesn't do anything. You got an answer. What's your Okay, you're right. So her normal mechanism for luteolysis does not involve prostaglandin. Let's just say that. Is that fair? Let's don't try to act like we know what it is. Let's just say that we know it doesn't involve prostaglandins, right? And you're right. So what if I gave this bitch a dose of luteolysis? So what would it do to her? It could cause her uterus to contract. I heard somebody say that. It could cause her uterus to contract. It could affect her respiratory tract. Probably makes her blood pressure go up a little bit with some vasoconstriction. What else? Does a dog flop around on the ground and pollock? No, what do? Yeah, that's what they do. She'd be puking her guts up. They will vomit like almost instantaneously. It's like, give it to them and get them outside. And they do their own life even thing on until they'll arch up. You know, that stuff. So, no, not necessarily, okay, but they could be used as an adjunct therapy to an open pyometra. Now, why do I say not a pregnancy, and I only say an open pyometra? So if I gave this pregnant dog a dose of ecbolics and the back door is shut, yeah, I could cause a rupture. Or if I had a pyometra with a fragile, thin-walled, pus-filled organ that's very sensitive to this, yeah, I could rupture that thing, dump all that pus out in the abdomen, okay?
So then, because I've seen it done, and I know they use an ecbolic for however reason. So they combine it with something else, so it's service of the ocean?
Yes, and so you actually would give those dogs estrogens, which is no longer labeled for doing that. You have to get it, it's ECP, estradiol cypionate, but you have to give that, and I would only give a dog that if they signed a waiver, excluding me from any side effects, which would include possibly death due to bone marrow suppression. Okay? You're very likely to cause a pyometra by doing that, by exposing them to that much estrogen in an abnormal place in their cycle. And so there's all kind of crazy stuff that can happen. I've only seen one dog get, and they call it the mismating shot, something nice. I mean, it is, it's aborting, those puppies. If they're in that situation, I would really talk to them into spaying the dog. Spaying the dog, and yes, spaying the pregnant dog and discarding the puppies. It happens. I would rather do that if they're going to, discard these puppies. I mean, I would rather, her never be put in this situation again. 99% of the time, it is an owner irresponsibility to leave that dog in that situation. I would rather spay her and throw her uterus and those puppies away than her go through that and those puppies are going to be thrown away anyhow. Okay? So, yeah. But y'all follow all that logic there? I don't think so. I mean, they could. And when you're figuring that dose, it becomes weight dependent a little bit more so than the standard cow dose or the standard. You're talking about something that was made for, large animals, so it doesn't take much, right? And remember, we're not probably affecting that CL that much because she doesn't have those receptors, but she's got all those other smooth muscles everywhere else in her body. All right? So I say all that stuff because that's the logic. That's where I'm trying to go with all this stuff. I want you to understand that you need to know what this drug does, what the mechanism of action is, what the withdrawal times are, and what the metabolism is, because if you're going to put it into an animal and something goes wrong, you have to be prepared. Okay? So let's kind of blow through this presentation, but I want to go through it because it's a little bit of putting everything together that we looked at yesterday, as well as talking about some of the real drugs. So what does FSH look like in a bottle? How can I administer LH to an animal and why? All right? So Dr. Robert Wilburn is a friend of mine. She teaches over at Auburn, and she was kind enough to give me this presentation. I thought it was good enough for one more of me to make another one. This is a very, very true statement. People a lot of times just don't care about most things that are probably relevant and important in the world, but you start talking about sex, and their ears perk up. It just does, okay? You say you're a veterinarian that does repro? Oh my gosh. So I just tell people I work for the sanitation department, and I help clean the fecal matter out of the drinking water, and then they don't want to talk about that. But that was So this is important. After all this stuff we've talked about this way, I want you to understand these are the objectives to take home from everything that we've talked about this week. Know all of these major hormones, know the organ they came from, know their target organ, positive or negative influence, and then we go to the next organ with the next hormone, okay? I need you to know all those. We didn't talk as much about the male. We're going to get there. We'll do spermatogenesis one day. We need to understand the estrous cycle. We talked about it for a little bit yesterday. We'll go through it again today to make sure, look at some of the different species, and then, if you know all those hormones, endogenously, exogenously, you need to understand what they are, who they are, and what we're going to use them for, okay? So we already did all this stuff. Let's keep moving. All right, everybody understands this? Polyestrous, seasonally polyestrous, okay? Polyestrous, she's not going to check up. Who does that? Cow. Cow does that. She's just going to keep cycling. Cow, sow, and rodent. I told you, when we talk about sow, we're talking about domestic species here. Talk about the wild sow, probably has some seasonal polyestrous, okay? So seasonally, we're talking about combine them, mares and ewes and does. One's a short day breeder, one's a long day breeder. Who's who? Sheep is short. Oh, good. I heard. Is that you doing? Sheep is short. Sheep is short. Yes.
A question about long day breeders. So does that mean that they look to get pregnant during the summer, or they?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Long day breeders mean I need the most sunshine when the days are the longest. I'm going to be in season. So right now, our mares are all shut down, but as soon as we get to February, we'll start these mares. We'll see some. People might leave them in the barn at night with the lights. Some. Right now, being in the middle of the days, most sheep and goats, they should be already pregnant. They start peaking about September, October. They start ramping up, and they should all be pregnant. And they're getting ready to think about dropping kids here in a few weeks. Very good. So monoestrous, maybe one cycle a year. At least no more than every 6 months. Okay. And then those are going to be most of our cans. All right. Here's an important point. Okay. If you say estrus with a US, we are just talking about the actual cycle. Okay. If you use OUS, you are describing it. Same thing can be applied to mucus. Okay. If I have a lot of mucus in my nose, that's US. But if Chad has a mucusy discharge, that's OUS, right? Y'all follow me? All right. So the mares in estrus and heat, US, or estrus cycle is 21 days. Follow that logic? That's important. We did all this stuff. Y'all are experts at this. So why do we need to do all this stuff? Well, the simple answer is that it's universal. We all have our caveats. Talk about any of these hormones, they are actually doing something in every mammal, male or female. Once you learn the basics, learn the cow, okay, and then you can discover all the nuances. And you just don't ever know when you might need it. I think it's very interesting knowing what I know now. I see a lot of commercials for these diets, for the HCG diet. Y'all know what HCG is? Human chorionic gonadotropin. You know where it comes from? It comes from the urine of pregnant women. And you're going to take that to lose weight. Joke is on you. Joke is on you, you idiots. No, don't do that. HCG comes from the urine of pregnant women. Don't eat that. Okay, here's the simple version of what we talked about yesterday. I got GnRH from that hypothalamus, gonadotropins goes to the anterior pituitary, releases the the hormones that have an affinity for gonads, those are FSH and LH. And if we get some FSH in the system, we'll start developing some follicles, right? And once we do some recruitment, then we'll do some selection, and those selected follicles, remember those LH receptors are going to get turned on, and I can grab some cholesterol. I can convert that into testosterone, and then those theca cells can give that testosterone to their friends, the granulosa cells. They'll take some of that FSH, convert that into estradiol, and then we can make we'll make lots of more estradiol. We can pump it out a little bit of inhibin, we'll get the negative feedback, and then eventually we end up with that LH surge. Right? Y'all got that. Okay? Gotta have that. Alright, I throw this picture in here because this is another way of looking at it, just one more way of looking at it. But somebody brought up the fact yesterday, somebody asked me, and so I added in this little oxytocin loop. If you want to understand luteolysis or luteolysis, the killing of that CL, once we get some PGF2 alpha in the system, and where does that come from? It comes from the uterus, from the endometrium. Once we get that in circulation, and we talked about ruminants versus equids, okay? But even though in that ruminant, I'm going to have that countercurrent exchange system, some of it does go into systemic circulation, okay? It just doesn't do a whole lot there. But there's this weird mechanism by which if the brain does, Chad, the brain does sense some PGF2 alpha in the system, it actually will pump out a little bit of oxytocin. Why does that matter? And why do I have a loop just drawing it back to itself? What does oxytocin do? It's an ekbolite. So if we make the uterus contract a little bit, what do you think happens if we're starting to dribble out a little PGF2 alpha? It'll push more out. Exactly right. So it is kind of like it's like this method of once the uterus knows I'm not pregnant, I'm gonna try to kill this CL. But just to ensure that I do that, I've got a backup mechanism too. So I'm not just gonna put a little bit in the system. I'm gonna put some out, and by putting some prostaglandin in the system, my brain recognizes and says, "Oh, they're trying to kill that CL. Hey, oxytocin, run down there and help make sure we got enough PGF2 alpha dumped into the system." So knowing that, it's not just one big push, okay? And that's part of that mare. That one they just injected her with, she gets a little dose, and it kind of starts ratcheting up. Does that make sense? We'll start dose, and we'll slowly walk up. And that is one of the reasons why we now use a synchronization protocol in heifers that actually involves giving them a dose of prostaglandins in the morning and coming back and doing it again in the afternoon to mimic a normal buildup of prostaglandin exposure.
Does oxytocin have positive feedback on PGF2 alpha?
It does because it causes endometrial to be squeezed by the smooth muscle.
Like oxytocin and use that instead.
No, and that's a good question. So those types of reactions, here, let's say this, that's a secondary effect, right? It's causing smooth muscle contraction, but that uterus has already been primed by prostaglandin. So as soon as the uterus starts detecting prostaglandin on board, entering diestrus, then I start going, all right, we got to start gearing up for the next phase, okay? And you bring up a fantastic point. Let's say this real quickly. I'll do it another day. Don't let me forget that, because the only thing that we didn't talk about in that whole system right there that I normally talk about is we were talking about gonads and we were talking about the brain. We did not talk about the organ of the uterus and the vagina and things like that. All the secondary effects that are going on. So don't let me forget. And one day next week we'll do that. So did you follow that mechanism though? All right. So oxytocin does play a little role. It's just not that big of a deal, but it does go on there. Okay. This is kind of an idea. You guys get a better idea than maybe my drawing, and that's what I keep telling you about. You know, the FSH and LH effects, and see those granulosa cells and theca cells becoming those luteal cells there after ovulation. All right, here's something you kind of want to understand. There's two big phases to this thing. We're either in the follicular phase, trying to grow up a follicle heading towards ovulation, or we're kind of in a shutdown maintenance phase, luteal phase, okay? So every female that I examine, I'm first going to put them into one of those categories. Is she trying to make a follicle, or are we past that window of time, and are we in repair and maintenance, okay, under progesterone, right? And then the easiest way to answer that question is, what is the dominant structure on the ovary? If I know the dominant structure on the ovary, I know the dominant hormone at play, I know exactly what she's trying to do. When I palpate a cow, I go in there, I find the cervix, I flip that uterus up, I assess tone. Just by understanding the tone of that cow's uterus, I can tell you what hormone is doing what. I know exactly what's on one of those. I just got to check them to tell you if it's on the left or the right, so I know exactly what phase of the uterus cycle is. If you let me go palpate a mare's cervix, I will tell you the tone of it, and I guarantee you there'll be one or two structures on either one of these ovaries, and I can tell you what phase of her estrous cycle she's in. Because I understand physiology. I understand the secondary effects, which we haven't even really got to those secondary effects. We'll mention that next week. But that's what's going through my brain when I'm palpating cows. It's not just like we talked about in the cow. It makes everything else be luteal phase. And what are those other specific stages? Metaestrus and diestrus. Halves and halves. Each half and half. Right? 2 parts of follicular phase, 2 parts of, so it's 4 quarters and 2 halves when we're talking about a cycle. All right. Follicular phase, follicles, estrogen. Luteal phase, CL, prostaglandin. Makes sense? We've already done this. You guys know this. Prostaglandin F2 alpha from where? Uterus. Why on day 15? Maternal, she's not pregnant. Maternal recognition of pregnancy in a cow is interferon tau. They can retain information 24 hours. Awesome. Alright, so there's what we're talking about. There's lumping in your 4 stages. Okay? Just make that graph a little bit dirtier, a little more complicated. Okay? But I promise you, I think you already know this because everybody drew it and put it in their own handwriting and had to write it on your paper in some which way you would understand it and remember it. Please, guys, take notes. You're not court stenographers. You don't have to write down everything I'm saying. Okay? I actually complained to our administration and all the memos. Please stop highlighting everything. If everything is important, nothing is important. That's no point. Just use yellow paper. Write down what's important. So, estrous cycle, okay, with most of the beasties that we're dealing with, and then most of the beasties we live with, though, have a mistress cycle, and they are different, okay? And just real quickly, so that you guys can understand this, when we talked about a new cycle for every, of these domesticated species began and ended with what? What was day 0? Ovulation, or within that 24 hours, right? Notice where we're timing day 0. Day 0 is when menses begins, okay? And so we're saying that we need a clean slate, and we are going to sweep up, clean out the uterus. We need a turnover of the endometrium, and once we get our house in order, we get everything lined up, then we'll start asking some players to come in here that we can actually get pregnant and house it. Okay? So she is, that menses is a preparation type phase of the uterus. Remember, I'm the guilty one. I've been talking to you about nothing but the brain and the ovary. It takes a functional uterus. It's just important to have that functional uterus to house that pregnancy as it is to be able to have an oocyte that can conceive. It's twofold, okay? And the mare is the greatest example. We have plenty of mares that have fertilizable oocytes well into their teens and 20s. Their uterus is cracked. It's terrible. It's terrible, okay? And so that's the main premise of embryo transfer in mares, is because she probably has the worst endometrium you've ever seen. She, any problems getting pregnant, she won't keep it until her 8-day checkup. Embryo at day 14, bring her back in 2 weeks, it's gone, every time. So we take that thing out and put it in another mare that's a healthier uterus, okay? So, if you want to, we already did all this, but if we're talking about that progesterone, or we're talking about that luteal phase, this is just doing everything we've already talked about. Now, what I think this diagram does a really good job of is showing us that follicular wave, okay? So, what induces the follicular wave? FSH. How often do we have FSH running around? All the time, due to tonicity of the hypothalamus. So notice that all those follicles at the bottom, that's constant recruitment. It's constant recruitment because we've always got a little bit of background FSH, right? And so we start this wave at day 0. Why can we start a new wave at day 0? Because progesterone has fallen, estrogen has fallen, right, and removed negative inhibition. So FSH goes back to work. Okay, you see the recruitment, selection, the dominance. But if we're under the umbrella of progesterone, what's going to be the ultimate fate? Atresia, right? So there was the first wave. Do it again. There's the second wave. And ultimately, to ovulate, this cow would be considered what? Triphasic. Does that make sense? She had 2 attempts, no go, took third time's a charm. She is for every complete estrous cycle, OUS, it takes 3 follicular waves. Triphasic cow. All right, what time is it? Time to go.